Has a coworker ever gone cold on you out of nowhere, and you spent 3 days replaying every conversation trying to figure out what you did wrong? Now flip it. Has anyone ever gone quiet on you, and you genuinely didn't think twice about it? Because in your head, you didn't do anything. That second part is what this video is actually about. Not the obvious office villain everyone loves to talk about. The quieter version. The one who never raises their voice, never gets written up, never gets called toxic by anyone to their face, and still somehow leaves a trail of coworkers who dread being on their team. Here's the uncomfortable part. Almost nobody who fits that description thinks it's them. And that's exactly why this video needed to get made. Because if you're watching content like this, there's a decent chance you're one of the good ones, which is precisely the blind spot. I'm Amar, and on this channel, we talk about the stuff that happens at work that nobody puts in the employee handbook. Today, we're not looking at how to spot a toxic coworker. We're looking at 5 habits that quietly make someone the toxic coworker, the kind that don't feel like sabotage from the inside because they always come wrapped in a reasonable excuse. Sign 1. You give feedback nobody asked for and call it honesty. Picture this. Someone on your team, we'll call him Ben, finishes a presentation. It went fine. Not perfect. Fine. You wait until it's just the two of you and say, "Hey, just so you know for next time, that opening was a little all over the place." Ben didn't ask. Nobody asked. But in your head, you did him a favor because you're the person who tells people the truth. Here's the tell. If you find yourself offering unsolicited critiques, mostly to people who are doing fine, and you feel a small hit of satisfaction watching their face fall for half a second before they say, "Thanks," that's not mentorship. That's a hierarchy you're quietly building where you get to be the one who knows better. Ask yourself if you'd say the exact same thing if there was zero chance anyone would find out it came from you. Real mentorship survives that test easily because it's actually about the other person getting better. This habit usually fails it, because what it's really about is you needing to be the smartest person in the room, even in a room that never asked for a ranking. Sign 2. You go cold instead of saying what's wrong. This one's sneaky because it doesn't feel like conflict. It feels like self-control. Someone disagrees with you in a meeting, or they get a project you wanted, or they forget to loop you in on something. You don't say anything. You just get a little shorter in your replies. You stop CCing them on things you used to include them in. 3 days later, they're asking a mutual coworker if they did something to upset you, and you're telling yourself you're just busy. The tell here is specific. If your warmth towards someone visibly drops the moment they stop doing what you wanted, and you never once tell them why, you're not avoiding conflict. You're punishing someone and making them guess the crime. And the worst part is, you get to keep your reputation as the easygoing one, because from the outside, it just looks like you're a little busy this week, while the other person is the one lying awake, wondering what they did. Quick pause here because this is usually where people start getting defensive on my behalf about themselves, and I'd rather you sit with it for a second instead of arguing your way out of it. Nobody's saying you're secretly plotting against your coworkers. Most people who do these things are running old habits they picked up somewhere and never questioned. That's actually the whole point. The behaviors that quietly damage a workplace are almost never the ones anyone sat down and planned. Sign 3. You collect stories about coworkers and call it venting. You and a work friend get coffee. You mention that Tom has been kind of short with everyone lately. You mention that Alex took a really long lunch on Tuesday. None of it feels malicious in the moment. It feels like bonding. But watch what happens over months. You become the person who knows something about everyone, and everyone else slowly becomes a little more careful around you without fully knowing why. The tell is this. If you regularly know things about your coworkers' moods, mistakes, and personal lives that they never told you directly, and you've repeated at least some of it to someone else, you're not venting. You're running a quiet information network. And information networks are exactly how trust in an office actually dies. Sign 4. You round your contribution up without noticing. A project ships. In the recap meeting, you say, "We redesigned the whole workflow." And technically that's true, you did touch it, but the actual redesign was someone else's idea that you refined and presented well. This is the sign most people miss entirely because it doesn't feel like stealing credit. It feels like describing teamwork accurately. The tell is whether the person whose idea it originally was would agree with how you told the story. If Chris pitched something in a Tuesday meeting, and by Friday you're presenting it upward using "we" and "our approach" without once saying his name out loud, that's not collaboration language. That's quiet erosion of someone else's win, one pronoun at a time. Sign 5. You test people before you trust them. and you call it being careful. You tell someone something mildly sensitive, not a real secret, just something borderline, and then you watch to see if it gets back to you through someone else. If it does, you quietly file that person as someone who talks. If it doesn't, they move up your list. This feels responsible. It feels like protecting yourself in a political environment. But you're essentially running loyalty audits on people who don't know they're being tested and deciding how warmly to treat them based on results they never consented to be scored on. The irony is that the people who fail this test the hardest are usually the ones who just talk normally, the way you'd expect a coworker to, while the people who pass it are often just naturally guarded, which tells you nothing real about who's trustworthy and everything about who already knew they were being watched. If even one of those landed, here's the part that matters more than the list itself. None of these 5 behaviors feel toxic while you're doing them, because every one of them comes dressed as a virtue. Honesty, self-control, closeness, team spirit, caution. That's exactly why the coworkers everyone secretly avoids are so rarely the loud ones. The loud ones get managed out eventually. The quiet ones get promoted. Because on paper, they look reasonable in every single interaction. And it's only the pattern across dozens of interactions that tells the real story. And patterns are much harder to point to in a performance review than one bad meeting. So here's what actually changes this, and it's less complicated than you'd think. Start naming things out loud instead of adjusting your behavior silently. If something bothered you, say it directly to the person, not through a colder tone they have to decode. Give credit by name before anyone has to ask for it, especially when it costs you a little bit of shine. Notice when you're about to share something about a coworker that they didn't share with you, and just don't. And the biggest one, stop treating your read on someone as fact until you've actually told them what you noticed and heard their side. None of this makes you a bad person for recognizing yourself somewhere in this list. It makes you someone who's willing to look at the parts of the story that are less flattering, which honestly puts you ahead of most people, including the ones this video was originally supposed to be about. If you caught yourself in one of these, drop it in the comments. Seriously. That kind of honesty is rare, and I'd rather you say it here than carry it around unspoken. And if this made you think of someone else entirely, that's fine too. Just don't let it become the next thing you quietly collect. Subscribe if you want more of the side of work nobody puts in writing. I'll see you in the next one.